Here we go. Smackdown, Lowdown. The show opens with Stephanie and Shane in the ring, and they're with Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan, and they're about to sign the Kofi Kingston Fast Lane contract for his title shot. We have a little Kofi Kingston career retrospective, and it opens surprisingly with something that I was under the impression WWE kind of wanted us to forget, and that is that Kofi Kingston used to be Jamaican. Don't forget. I think they want you to forget. Maybe they don't want you to forget because they did show us just, in the retrospective. But Kofi used to be Jamaican. Anyway, and it's a good example of what they should do with Lana. They dropped it. And that's what they need to do with Lana's ravishing Russian act as well. So in the middle of all of this, though, we're all getting excited about Kofi. We're feeling all the Kofi vibes. And Vince McMahon comes out and says that basically Kofi's, as great as he is not good enough to be in the conversation for the WWE Championship. And he instead inserts a returning Kevin Owens into the title match at Fastlane. This is probably, if you're a Kofi Kingston fan, could have felt very frustrating, but if you're a smart Kofi Kingston fan, you understand that this is the best thing that could have happened. And the reason for that is they don't want to play out the Kofi versus Daniel rivalry so that it feels stale by the time we get to WrestleMania. What they're doing is they are simultaneously giving us a different match to watch at a pay-per-view and in the meantime, while also giving us a new story angle of Kofi trying to earn his way into that match, which at this point you'd be hard-pressed to argue that he does not rightfully deserve. So that's good. That's a good thing. We're not going to get the same... It's Kofi and Daniel is not going to be boring. If they do this right, by the time we get to WrestleMania, that won't be boring. And let's all be honest, with this whole thing starting a week or maybe 2 weeks, a week, I think, before Elimination Chamber and carrying all the way to WrestleMania, that's a lot of shows. And that's kind of a long time where maybe we could start to feel a little bit bored. Bored might be a hard word, but in comparison to how we might feel otherwise, I think bored is, it's legit, like in comparison. So one thing about this that is a little curious for me, though, is I'm not quite sure what to make of it as far as Kevin Owens' character is concerned. Kevin Owens and his video promos that have been showing up the last few weeks has made himself out to be kind of an everyman. And I think they were trying to make him more of a good guy, more of a face, less of a heel. And putting him in this situation, I think only draws heel heat. I think it only draws the opposite of what they've been trying to how they've been trying to make us think about Kevin Owens lately. So I'm not sure if that's good for his character. I think the more natural person to put into this spot is somebody more along the lines of Randy Orton could have been a good choice, but I think they've got other plans for Randy Orton going forward. The guy I think is really, despite the fact that it might come off itself as a little bit old hat, which is maybe why they didn't do it. And it would be a heel versus heel championship match, but that's how this Kevin Owens thing is going to feel anyway. I think, just to cut to the chase, I think Samoa Joe would have been the better choice for who Vince interjected into the match in Kofi's place. I think that would have been a better choice. It fits a little bit more with his current character. We already have a little bit of a brewing history between the two, not only going back, but just within the last 6 weeks, we've had some moments between Samoa Joe and Daniel Bryan where they're at least adjacent to each other, involved in the same things. And it just seems a more natural pairing to me. I don't know. I could be wrong. Obviously, they want to get Kevin back on TV as quickly as possible. He'd been out with the injury. And maybe they feel like his lack of presence, his absence, there we go, has been hurting the product. So they want to get him back in as quickly as possible and in a marquee spot. So in that sense, his insertion in this, it makes sense. But I think it shows that they're really panicking about the ratings. I think it shows that we're definitely going to get Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. But I think it's maybe a bit rushing it with Kevin, and I don't know that he's the right dude for the spot. So the next segment starts with the Bar in the ring, and the team that is coming out to face them is a total surprise. It's the Hardy Boys, my favorites from when I was a kid. Them and Shawn Michaels were always. Everybody loves Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I did too. I had a lot of Stone Cold shirts back in like 1998, 97. I had a lot of Stone Cold shirts. I had a lot of Stone Cold action figures. I don't think I had a single Jeff or Matt Hardy shirt. I didn't have a single Jeff or Matt Hardy action figure. That being said, the Hardy Boys were I loved them. As a kid, and it was really cool to see them in this match. Obviously, any match that contains Matt and Jeff Hardy is going to have some really good spots in it if both the guys are on their game, and they both looked on their game in this match. I haven't seen Matt Hardy look this healthy and this energetic in the ring in a long time. I mean, if you think about Matt Hardy over the last year and a half, and going further back than that too, probably, but this is the most fresh in my mind. He's a shell of his former self. And even in this match, didn't look anything like his former self, but definitely looked like the best version of his current self that we've seen. So the time off was obviously great for him. And if you were going to have the Hardy Boys on a show, you'd have to make a tough decision about which show to have them on, because currently each brother is associated with a different show. We haven't seen Matt for 4 months or 6 months or something like that, but the last we did see him, he was on Raw, and Jeff has been on Smackdown. So obviously they'd have to make a choice about which show to put them on, because there isn't a natural, obvious choice. But I still think they did something a little bit strange by putting them on SmackDown, because the SmackDown tag team division is already so strong. Do we need a legendary team like the Hardy Boys in the mix to just push everybody else even further down the rungs? I don't know. We already have the Usos, the New Day, the Bar, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's the 3 big ones. But that's 3 pretty big ones as far as the WWE men's tag division is concerned. The Usos, the New Day, and the Bar are probably, and of course you have Shane and Miz too, but that's a temporary pairing. We all know that at this point. But those are probably 3 of the biggest tag teams in the WWE as far as the main roster is concerned. Already, do we need to add the Hardy Boys to that? I would love to see the Hardy Boys with the Raw Tag Team Championships, or at least involved in that conversation. You'd have the Revival, you would have Chad and Bobby, and you would have Matt and Jeff. And there's other teams too, and I know that, but like those would be the three premier teams over on Raw, and it would be, I think, a more evenly matched landscape for the tag division to have had them on Raw, and maybe they will be on Raw going forward. This edition of SmackDown Live was recorded in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, if there's ever a time where the Hardys were going to make a surprise appearance, this would be it. I mean, they're from North Carolina, if you don't know that already. And that's also, why we're having a big birthday bash for Ric Flair as well. It's because that might be why they're in Charlotte when they're in Charlotte, is because of Ric Flair's birthday. That might be why they scheduled the show there. He's also from Charlotte. So we had some big Charlotte moments for the local people with the Hardys coming back. So I guess maybe don't be surprised if you see them on Raw next week and they just made their debut on SmackDown because SmackDown happened to be essentially in their hometown. I'm not sure. But the way the match ended, at least, both Hardy Boys hit their signature moves. Matt had a couple of his little signature delete moments. One in the turnbuckle with his head bashing move, and he hit a twist of fate, and then and Jeff hit a swanton bomb, and then they got the pin, and they got the win, and we all knew that was going to happen. The Hardy Boys aren't going to lose in Charlotte in their first match together in 18 months or however long it's been. So the next thing we have is a locker room segment with Lana, Ricochet, and Aleister Black. And it was actually more entertaining, I think, than the average backstage segment that doesn't involve a physical confrontation. Ricochet's come a long way with his acting, I think. And then maybe that's why he's gotten this kind of partial promotion to the main roster as opposed to somebody else, because his acting really has come a long way, and he's so dynamic and so entertaining in the ring. This particular segment gave him an opportunity to answer some criticisms from Lana in a way that felt natural and felt strong, So yeah, this was a better backstage segment than a lot of them. The next in-ring segment of importance was R-Truth versus Mysterio and Andrade in a triple threat match for the United States Championship. This opens with R-Truth coming out and saying that ever since he was a little kid, he's always looked up to John Cena, which is hilarious because at worst you would assume R-Truth and John Cena are about the same age, and it actually R-Truth is older than John Cena. I'm not sure how much older. I looked it up real quick when he said it because I thought it was funny. And R-Truth he's older, and I think they even mentioned it. I think Graves might have mentioned that R-Truth was older. Right there on SmackDown. But this is pretty funny, and R-Truth is great for these little segments. So he says that because he's always looked up to John Cena, he wants to extend the tradition of the United States Championship Open Challenge. So come out and fight me, right? And out comes Andrade, and Andrade is ready to fight. But then Rey Mysterio comes out and kind of attacks Andrade. He runs out past the Titantron. You barely even hear his music. He's attacking Andrade, and then he's in the ring. And then Andrade recovers quickly from the attack and also gets in the ring very quickly. R-Truth is like, whoa, what am I supposed to do here? I mean, what would Cena do? And then Carmella says, well, John would fight them both. And so Truth is like, man, is that really what he would do? Because I was thinking of looking at you and saying, no, thank you, and looking at you and saying, no, thank you. Like, he's like, I was thinking maybe since you both came out, I'd just fight neither of you. Truth's funny. The match is actually really good. Actually, very good. It's mostly Andrade and Rey Mysterio duking it out, and I mean, you can watch these two fight whenever. I've said it before, I will say it again. Maybe not every week, but I could watch a match between these two just about every week. R-Truth had his own little moments in the match, don't get me wrong, and R-Truth did ultimately retain the title when Rey Mysterio had both Andrade and R-Truth set up in the ropes for what looked like it was about to turn into a double 619, but as Rey was running up and had already fully committed to doing the 619, Truth slipped out of the ropes, so he only hit a single 619 on Andrade. Andrade gets knocked out apparently cold by the 619, and as Rey is getting ready to pin Andrade, Truth sneaks up behind him, rolls him up for the 1-2-3 and the retention, and it was a really great match. R-Truth is probably not the most compelling champion to have. Like, the belts are only as good as who they've been given to and who has them right now. Each title can only possibly be as entertaining as the dude who has it, right? Like, and the matches that are created around that. You could have a really great challenger, but if you have a boring champion, it's not going to be a great match. So it's kind of like I'm saying two opposite things at the same time here. I'm glad that Truth retained because so far his time with the belt has been made more entertaining for us by creative and by the writing and the storylines than Shinsuke Nakamura's time with the belt was made to be entertaining for us, or Rusev's time with the belt was made to be entertaining for us. So with Truth holding on to the belt, at least right now, creative wants to write somewhat entertaining or at least amusing spots for him. And I don't think you can be too terribly mad that he retained, because so far his retention and his reign has been entertaining. So yeah, as much as I'd say that he's not the most compelling champion in the world, the way they're using him has been better than the way they've been using the last, 3 guys to wear that title. Ever since Jeff Hardy lost it, that title has been boring. So at least Truth is bringing some kind of something to watch to the equation. But yeah, Truth was mostly sat out that match. It was mostly a showcase between Andrade and Mysterio, and there was a lot of good spots. I feel like we're going to see some sort of program about Andrade and Mysterio at WrestleMania. I feel like they've been building that for us. And they've been doing it, and it's partially a testament to the two guys as in-ring workers and how entertaining they are and how, excuse me, how much we can see this without it starting to get stale. It hasn't gotten stale for me yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was something akin to like a hair versus mask match. I just recently watched Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. I can't remember which WCW pay-per-view it is, but they have a match. It's a hair versus mask match, and it's fantastic. And a lot of their program reminds, like leading into that, it's similar, at least in its nature, like in a very general sense, to what they've been doing with Andrade and Mysterio. So that might be my prediction for what to expect out of those two going forward, is occasional matches like this leading up to, and then maybe them spoiling each other's plans a little bit, and leading up to a big blow-off for their feud at WrestleMania. And I, for one, would love to see a high-stakes match between the two. Maybe one or the other of them will win that United States Championship in the meantime, and that'll be for a belt. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was just for Mysterio's mask or Andrade's hair or something. The next segment, Charlotte comes into the ring. She has a nice little heel speech. Nothing really new for her at this point, but at least they're continuing to develop her character in this direction and become, she's she's not just at this point trying to be Becky, I don't think. I think that, they wanted Becky to be a heel and they wanted us to feel the way we feel about Becky currently about Charlotte. That's what the plan was. But now they're like, well, we'll just make Charlotte a heel. And maybe they're kind of doing some of the same, play calls when it came to making Becky a heel. But they're doing it in a different way, and it actually is coming off in like Charlotte's a bad guy. So it's good to see that they're sticking to it at least. And it. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to the match at WrestleMania at this point. This is something that it's not been bad. It certainly could have been better. And this is kind of what I'm talking about with the Kofi Daniel Bryan thing. We could be getting in a situation like this where they're trying to find a way to get this rivalry on TV every day without interloping more stories into it. And they're struggling. It's not, like I said, it's not lost on me, the excitement for the match. So they're not failing completely, but I'm glad to see that they're doing something different with Kofi and Daniel, because to see more of this it'd be boring. Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev take on Ricochet and Aleister Black. The match delivered a lot of what you would expect. Overall, it was a lot of fun to watch. I've got no complaints about it. Is a little bit strange still to me to have Rusev and Nakamura together as a tag team. I don't really know what to expect from that going forward. I'm also kind of wondering about the Aleister Black and Ricochet pairing. Are they going to be tag team wrestlers on the main roster? Is that what's going to happen? From what I understand, they're getting paired together also in the Dusty Rhodes tag team tournament or whatever on NXT. And it kind of seems like they're trying to make us accept them as a team. There's just nothing about, I haven't seen anything, and maybe I missed something, but I haven't seen anything on TV that suggests to me that these two are friends. They just feel like they feel an awful lot like Shinsuke and Rusev in a way, maybe a little bit more organic because we don't have as much history, especially if you only watch Raw and SmackDown. You don't have as much history with either Aleister or Ricochet as you do with Shinsuke and Rusev. So maybe it doesn't feel quite as unnatural. But I think it's similar. I think it's a similar pairing where there's no reason for me to believe that these two are friends or working together or anything. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to go on going forward with that and how these guys are going to be used. They're both among my favorite NXT guys. They're both among my favorite guys in WWE in general. And I don't think a tag team is bad. Almost every major player we've had in WWE has spent at least a little bit of time, sometimes even at the peak of their career, in a tag team. I mean, Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels were tag team champions for a little bit. I mean, so it's not like they don't take guys that are perfectly capable singles stars and put them on tag teams sometimes. They do that. I just don't know what to think of it. Lacey Evans just keeps showing up, doing nothing. That's starting to bother me. Kofi and Kevin versus Daniel and Rowan. Kevin Owens looks strong in his return to the ring. Aside from that, I really don't know what else there is to say about it. Kofi and Kevin got the win. That's fine. Kevin got the pin on Daniel Bryan. It was textbook stuff, really, just to prove to us that it could happen so that maybe we'll think that there's a chance that Daniel Bryan loses that title at Fastlane. There isn't. There isn't. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that. It wasn't a bad match to watch. I mean, these are three at least. I don't know about Rowan, but these are three of the best wrestlers in the company. So, I mean, obviously it made for a decent match and an entertaining match just from a storyline standpoint. I don't really know. I don't really know what to think about it. Anyway. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much my thoughts on SmackDown right now. SmackDown. Wait a minute. I feel like I missed something. Oh, I think I just might have got a little confused and accidentally talked about Ric Flair's birthday being on the SmackDown show, and it wasn't. Which it seems like maybe it should have been, because Raw was in Atlanta, which is WCW territory for sure. But then SmackDown was in Charlotte, and that's the dude's hometown. It seems like maybe they missed an opportunity. Anyway, yeah, SmackDown was good. It wasn't as good as Raw, which is a bit of a flip flop for what we've been experiencing of late. But SmackDown was good. Raw was good. I was very happy with WWE this week. All right, see you later.